In this video, we're checking out a great selection of historic Tri-5 Chevrolets, including one of the original two-lane blacktop cars, tons of cool gassers, old school parts in the swap meet, drag racing action, and a whole lot more. Usually one of the first things that I do when I get to an event is I go to the swap meet because I want to see if I can find any kind of treasure that catches my eye. Even if I don't want to buy it, I just enjoy seeing this stuff. So I wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that caught my attention while I was walking through the swap meet. The first thing that caught my attention was this old school bell housing. Now this says NHRA approved and it looks like the brand name Wedge, but this is a super heavy piece that would have been made probably in the 1960s. Next is a row of drag mags. Now these things are really cool. These are totally 1960s, and check out those cool cheater slicks. Those are actually NHRA super stock slicks. Sometimes swap meets can be a little bit overwhelming because there's just so much stuff, so many parts, but if you look hard enough, you can find some cool stuff. Like looking inside of this trailer, I see a cross ram intake for a big block Chevrolet and what appears to be a factory GM aluminum intake. Good stuff tucked back in here where nobody could really see it. Now this is a really cool piece. This is a homemade inline 6-cylinder intake manifold. You can see the cast aluminum piece on the bottom. That's actually a produced piece, but the box up here is homemade and it is super cool. This guy had some really cool tires and wheels. He actually wasn't in the swap meet. He was just a racer that had his stuff out of his trailer. I love that kind of stuff because usually you can find a good deal. And check these out. I ended up buying these. These are original Stahl front runner tires, super rare, mounted to some narrow Krager SS wheels. A great combination, and they'll bolt on to a Chevrolet. I'm probably going to put these on something here pretty soon. I just love how they look. Now this is a pretty cool 70s build. You can see it's got some Mickey Thompson Indy Profile bi-sply tires on it, and then under the hood a cross ram with 2 4s, and just a killer old school hot rod that's been around for a long time. I lost count of how many two-lane blacktop replicas or tribute cars were at the Dan Truck Tri-5 Nationals, and this is a pretty good one here. You can see it's got the fiberglass doors with the sliding windows. It's got all the right elements, the American 200S wheels, the iconic scoop, fender well headers. It's a pretty cool piece. But nothing beats seeing an actual movie car, and this is it right here. This is an authentic two-lane blacktop car. Now they created a couple of these cars that were used in the movie, and if you didn't realize this, these cars were actually also used in the movie American Graffiti. The American Graffiti car, the Bob Falfa 55, it was shiny black, but it was the exact same car. And you see that, there's some changes here, not only the paint, but a few other details, including those iconic American 200S wheels, and in this case, it's got Firestone Indy tires on the back, which is authentic to the movie. Now you'll see up front, it actually doesn't have authentic tires on the front. Those are just regular old radials, but the rest of this car is pretty much right on the money. As we walk around it, you can see that big block, the white headers, the tunnel ram and 2 4s, and even everything down to the suspension design. This car is authentic, aside from those front tires, which bothers me just a little bit because I'm a tire guy, but this thing is about as good as you can get. Anytime I see a 55 with a flip front end, I know it's got to have some kind of drag racing history. This thing is super cool. Another cross ram with 2 4s. This thing's got some good pieces. Lakewood 3-point roll bar, old school Hurst shifter, old school steering wheel. It's just a cool 60s style street car. Notice that the wheel wells have not been radiused on this car, and it has a pretty conservative stance. Here's another 55 two-door post. This time, once again, we don't have radius wheel wells, but we got a lot of other gasser details. Like inside of here, it's got a roll cage, the low back buckets, 4-speed sticking up out of the floor, and then you can see it's got a straight axle under the front, some skinny front tires, and an old school teardrop scoop on the hood. Here's another cool gasser with some history, this time a 57 two-door post, and you can see flip front end, and underneath it's got a small block Chevrolet. It's got a few modern pieces on it, but you can see that this thing was an old school race car. You can see that firewall's been cut out and the engine's set back. It's got a straight axle under the front, moon tank up in front of the radiator. it's got a lot of cool pieces. If you look inside of here, it's got an old roll bar, the old upholstery's still in there. Lots of cool details in here. It's got a cable drive tack up on the dash, the old school steering wheel, the switch panel. So many cool pieces on this car that are still surviving, including this lettering, the E-gas lettering and the car number 1116. Very, very cool survivor. The radius wheel wells are nicely done, but you can see that this car doesn't have a super wide rear end where the tires are sticking way out of it. They're actually tucked up under there, but this thing is cool. It's got a lot of cool details. It's got a pretty slick paint job on it, but I like that they kept that old lettering on the windows. Another look inside of here, you'll see that tack. That's an old Stewart Warner tack. Very, very highly sought after piece. Lots of good stuff in here. Hearse shifter, it's got the old aluminum gas pedal in there. So many cool details, probably from the 70s, but you can see that this thing probably spent some time on the street as well. But fender well headers, scoop on the hood, Krager wheels, and of course those moon eye stickers on the front fenders. Probably my favorite non-gasser at this event was this two-door Post 55. It's a 210 trim model. It sits just right over those 200S wheels. And then on the inside is probably my favorite part. It's got Impala interior. So it's got a SS console. It's got those bucket seats with the diamond upholstery. This car has just got a lot of cool character and it sits just right. Now here's a cool one. This is a 57 Chevrolet pickup. A super nice truck, but what really got my attention was the Harley Hummer in the back. Now, these things were only made for a few years and they're pretty rare. They're not worth a whole lot of money, but they're super cool. I love the looks of these two street gassers. This is Rick Rusk in his 55 Chevrolet called the Real Deal, and this is Steve Todd's 57 Chevrolet. I love the mismatched tire and wheel combo on this car. A lot of history between the two of them. Speaking of history, it doesn't get much more authentic than this 55 Chevrolet 150 two-door sedan. This is as stripped down as you could get as far as the trim levels, but this was the perfect drag racing platform for the 60s, and this car has all the right details. If you look under the hood, it's got a cross ram on a small block Chevy, white fender well headers, all sorts of period correct components inside and out. Now this 55 had a pretty wild paint job on it. You can see that that black paint is super slick. And then it's got this wild 70s style striping that's sort of this, I guess you call that endless line, where it just goes on and on and on. And then inside it's got this diamond interior with buttons, a chrome roll bar, Impala steering wheel, lots of cool period correct pieces, and the Krager wheels just really set this thing off. I also really like this American Graffiti tribute car. You can see right here that this car's got some slick paint on it, big block Chevrolet with aluminum heads, a lot of good components there. The headers look really nice on there too. Slick paint job, the radius wheel wells, the chrome reverse wheels, tilt front end. This car's got everything you need in an American Graffiti tribute car. Now let's wrap up this Dan Chuck Tri-5 Nationals coverage with some drag racing action, some long smoky burnouts, some wheel stands, some really good action. I enjoyed it and I think you will too.
If you are able to stand, please stand. If you are able to